What do a trembling rival, a ghost stadium, and a secret weapon have in common? They're all set to shake up the NFL together. Check this out. Philadelphia lost sleep, and their local rag wrote 10 reasons not to fear us. Huge mistake. Meanwhile, in D.C., we're under pressure. 19 days to rescue RFK or lose our identity forever. And Adam Peters just signed a TOY that will make defenses weep. Want to witness the most epic revenge of this franchise? Subscribe or risk being left behind. When the burgundy and gold roars back. If that surprises them, wait until you hear this. The Eagles just won the Super Bowl, right? They should be celebrating, relaxed, enjoying their success. But no, you know what they're doing? They're writing full articles about why we're going to be a disaster. Jimmy Kempski from Philly Voice published an article with 10 reasons why we supposedly will fail this season. 10 reasons. Do you realize what this means? When the reigning champion has to convince themselves you're not a threat, it's because you are the #1 threat. I'll tell you this. After years of seeing our team be the joke of the division, we finally have an organization that's keeping everyone up at night. And the reason is simple. They know that what we're building here is real. Let's break down each of their pathetic arguments. First, they say we were lucky in close games last year. Luck? Do they call what Jaden Daniels did against Chicago luck? How he closed the game against the Giants. Great quarterbacks don't have luck. They create their own luck. And when you have a rookie who handles pressure like a 10-year veteran, that's not a fluke. Second, they talk about our pass rush as a weak point. Weak point? We brought in Dorrance Armstrong. We have Montez Sweat, who's already shown what he can do. Frankie Louvu is coming off his best season. This guy clearly didn't watch the games where our defense dismantled entire offensive lines. Third, the stupidest argument of all. They say we're going to regress because other teams that improve regress later. But how many of those teams had a Rookie of the Year quarterback? How many had a head coach who took teams to Super Bowls? How many had a GM who built championship-winning rosters? None, because what we have here is different. Dan Quinn isn't just any coach. This man took Atlanta to the Super Bowl. Adam Peters isn't just any GM. This guy helped build San Francisco's roster that reached multiple championship games. And, most importantly, they say Jaden will have a sophomore slump because other quarterbacks did. But you know what? Daniels had 3,568 passing yards, 891 rushing yards, and 29 total touchdowns in his first season. Even if he drops a bit, he'd still be better than most established quarterbacks in the league. Want to know what else? The article mentions that in the comparison chart, Jaden had a better QBR than practically all rookies listed, except Dak Prescott. And look at how Dak has done in playoffs. Jaden already took us further in his first year. Then it says Frankie Louvu is overrated. Overrated? This man had 98 tackles, 8 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles last year. Since when are those numbers overrated? Louvu is exactly the type of linebacker we needed. He can cover, he can rush, he can stop the run. They say, our coaching staff are fake tough. Fake tough? Dan Quinn built the Seattle defense that demolished Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl. Cliff Kingsbury made Murray and the Cardinals competitive. Joe Witt Jr. comes from coordinating successful defenses. Are these fake tough guys? And the cherry on top, they say our roster is too old because we have Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz. Too old? Wagner just led our defense with 132 tackles. Ertz remains one of the most reliable tight ends in the red zone. Experience isn't weakness, it's strength. But do you know what's most revealing about all this? That they crushed us 55-23 in the championship game. And still they're awake at night writing 10-point articles trying to convince themselves we're not competition. Why would they do that if they really believe we're irrelevant? Because they know what we know, that 55-23 was the awakening of a sleeping giant. That each point they scored against us was motivation for this offseason. that Adam Peters saw that beating and said, never again. But Philadelphia's concern is nothing compared to the story we might be about to write. Now I ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. How many of you grew up hearing your parents and grandparents talk about the great moments at RFK? The Hogs dominating defensive lines, Art Monk running perfect routes, Mark Ripien throwing darts, Darryl Green running like the wind. The 3 Super Bowls that made us legends. Well, I've got news that will change everything. We might be about to come home. The Commanders just released an official statement defending the RFK Stadium project after some DC council members wanted to take it out of the budget. And I tell you this with all the passion in my heart. Do you understand what's at stake here? It's not just a stadium. It's our soul. It's our legacy. It's returning to where we belong. Let me paint the full picture of what's happening. In April, Josh Harris and Mayor Muriel Bowser presented a vision I thought I'd never see in my lifetime, bringing the Commanders back to Washington, D.C., not to Maryland, where the stadium feels like neutral territory, not to Virginia, where we never put down roots, but here in the heart of the DMV, where we build our history. But do you know what makes this so special? RFK isn't like other stadium projects. This place has a SOUL. This is where Joe Theismann became a legend before his injury. Where Doug Williams proved he could win the Super Bowl. Where the Hogs earned respect from all of the NFL. I remember my dad's stories about how that stadium would shake when the defense forced a turnover. How the fans made so much noise that visiting offensive lines couldn't hear the counts. That was real home field advantage. But here comes the part that has me worried. We need 7 votes from the DC Council, and we only have 4 confirmed. 4! With a deadline of July 15th, this is tighter than a playoff game in January. And you know why some council members are hesitating? Because they don't understand the economic impact this would bring. The proposal talks about thousands of new jobs, revitalizing an entire area neglected for years. Infrastructure that would benefit the whole community. Josh Harris isn't Dan Snyder. This man understands that owning an NFL team is being a steward of something bigger than himself. That this team belongs to the community. And that RFK represents the connection between a glorious past and a bright future. The team statement makes it clear. Delays don't just delay construction. They could prevent Washington from competing for major global events. Do you understand what this means? We're talking about the possibility of Washington hosting a Super Bowl. When was the last time something like that happened in the DMV? We're talking Final Fours, international concerts, events that would put Washington on the world map. But, more important than all that, we're talking about reclaiming our identity. Because I tell you this with no exaggeration, since we left RFK, this team has never felt the same. FedEx Field is a cold, soulless stadium where visiting fans feel at home. Where our own players have admitted they don't feel the energy of the crowd. Do you remember the Monday Night Football against Dallas at RFK? When the whole structure vibrated with the crowd's roars? When the Cowboys had to use silent count on their final drive? That is what a stadium can do for a team. And it's not just nostalgia, it's sports science. Teams with real home field advantage win more games. Points, stats, everything improves when you play in a place where your people truly support you. RFK will represent the complete rebirth of this franchise. Not only will we have a new stadium, but we'd also have our home back. And with the way this roster is being built, with Jaden Daniels growing, with this defense taking shape, the timing would be perfect. But if we miss this opportunity, if we don't get those 3 missing votes, we could be talking about another 20 years, playing as visitors in our own city. Another 20 years watching rival fans fill our stands. Another 20 years without real home field advantage. I say to all the fans watching this, call your representatives. Make some noise, because this is not just a Commanders project. It's a project for a LL of Washington, D.C. And if you think Reclaiming RFK would be incredible. Wait until you see what Adam Peters just did. Deebo Samuel is officially in burgundy and gold, and I can't contain the excitement. Do you understand the magnitude of what Adam Peters just accomplished? We just brought in one of the most dynamic, versatile players in the entire NFL. Player who will not only change our offense, but also the way rival teams prepare defensively. Let me tell you exactly why this move is brilliant. First, the tactical versatility Deebo brings is something I never thought I'd see in Washington. This man in San Francisco played as a wide receiver, running back, returner, even quarterback on special plays. Cliff Kingsbury must be up nice designing formations that never existed before. Can you imagine the nightmares defensive coordinators will have? You put Gabo as receiver, Terry McLaurin on the other side, Austin Eckler in the backfield, and Zach Ertz as tight end. How do you defend that? If you put passing personnel, Deebo will run over you. If you put running personnel, McLaurin will burn you deep. Second, the number he chose tells me all I need to know about his mentality. Number 1. Do you think that's a coincidence? When a player of his caliber chooses number 1, he's telling the whole world he came here to be the star. He didn't come to be anyone's compliment. And I respect that completely. Because Terry McLaurin has already shown he doesn't have an ego problem. Terry understands that if Deebo is dominating defensive attention, he'll have more one-on-one opportunities. That's a winning mindset. Third, let's analyze his numbers from San Francisco to understand the kind of impact he's going to have. In 2021, his best season, 1,405 receiving yards, 365 rushing yards, 14 total touchdowns. Do you understand that? He was both receiver and running back at the same time. But it's not just the numbers. It's the way he got them. Deebo is the kind of player who turns 5-yard screens into 70-yard touchdowns. Who takes simple handoffs and turns them into big plays? Who makes impossible catches in traffic and keeps running like a linebacker? Fourth, the chemistry he can develop with Jaden Daniels is what excites me most. Daniels showed last year that he can make all the throws, deep balls, intermediate routes, perfect checkdowns. Now he has a receiver who can run a LL kinds of routes. Quick slants, Deebo turns them into yards after the catch. Deep balls, he has the speed to separate. Back shoulder throws, he has the physique to protect the ball. Screens, forget it. That's his territory. Fifth, in the red zone, this man will be unstoppable. Are they going to cover him like a receiver? He'll run right over them from the backfield. Are they going to cover him like a running back? He'll make a perfect route to the corner of the end zone. Defensive coordinators will need therapy after playing us. And don't forget the intimidation factor. Deebo is not just a numbers guy. He's a player who changes game momentum. I've seen this man literally break the will of entire defenses. With a single play. 6, the impact on the rest of the offense will be exponential. Austin Eckler will have more space because defenses will have to account for Deebo as a runner. McLaurin will have more one-on-one opportunities because double teaming him means leaving an equally dangerous threat free. Zach Ertz will benefit enormously because with so much talent around, defenses can't focus on just one player. And young running backs like Brian Robinson will have more opportunities because defenses will be confused with all the possible formations. Seventh, culturally, this move shows something I've been saying all season. Adam Peters understands that to compete at the highest level, you can't play conservatively. For years, Washington settled for projects and potential. Now we're bringing in players who have already proven to be elite. Deebo Samuel isn't a risk. He's a proven player who has shined on the biggest stages. He's played in Super Bowls, made decisive plays in playoffs, and shown that when you need him most, he produces more. 8. The flexibility he gives Cliff Kingsbury is endless. They can use formations with 2 running backs where one is really Deebo as a receiver. They can use trips receiver sets where Deebo can motion to the backfield. They can use empty backfield with Deebo as a check down that turns into a big play. Believe we will see plays never before done in the NFL. Because when you have a player with Deebo's skills, the only limits are your imagination. Let's recap all this because my head is exploding with excitement. The Eagles, completely terrified, writing desperate articles trying to convince themselves we're not a threat. But we know the truth. When the reigning champion loses, sleep over you. It's because you're doing something right. RFK Stadium, the chance to reclaim our soul, our home, our legacy. To go from being visitors in our own stadium to having true home field advantage. To bring back the magic that made this franchise great. And Deebo Samuel, the final piece of the offensive puzzle. A player who not only produced numbers, but also changed how everyone sees the Washington Commanders. Do you see the pattern here? This organization finally understands what it means to compete at the highest level. We're no longer the team that waits for free agency scraps. We're the team going for the best available players. We're no longer the team settling for borrowed stadiums. We're the team fighting to reclaim its historic identity. We're no longer the team mocked in articles. We're the team keeping the reigning champions awake at night. This change isn't accidental. It's the result of having ownership that understands, management that executes, and coaches that develop. For the first time in decades, all the pieces are aligned, and I guarantee we'll have more explosive news tomorrow because this off-season is just beginning. You can't miss what's coming because this season will be different. I feel it in my bones. I see it in every move this organization makes. Hit LIK if you think Deebo Samuel will be an NFC East MVP candidate. Subscribe if you think this year we make it to the Super Bowl. And let me know in the comments, which of these three news excites you most for the season? Are you ready to be part of this family witnessing something special being born? Are you ready to be witnesses to the history being written in Washington? Do you really think Philadelphia is afraid of us? Do you think the RFK project will pass in time? And what are you expecting from Deebo Samuel in his first season in burgundy and gold? Because I tell you this, we've been waiting for the moment when everything aligns. Franchise quarterback, check. Proven coaching staff, check. Aggressive general manager, check. Committed ownership, check. And now, elite playmakers, check. This community is a family. And together, we're going to see this team not only return to the playoffs, but fight for the Super Bowl. Subscribe to not miss a single update of what promises to be the most exciting season we've lived in decades. And always remember, hail to the Redskins.